So you're probably wondering, where have I seen this fiery redhead before? You will recognise her because she was in The Hunger Games, J Part 1 and 2 and Catching Fire. This is the theme tune I use when I think about Stef. Ooh, 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 ooh.
Usually she misses the whole note.
Stef played Annie in The Hunger Games, which is major. This major.
Major.
So tell me, how the hell did you land that?
I was a big fan of the books before anything else. My mate Danny McDonald, one of my besties, she was a huge fan of them, and we were living together at the time in LA in our first shitty apartment, and she was like, you gotta read these books, they're awesome. And then I read them, as people do, cover to cover, all of them in a row, and fell in love with them, with the world that Suzanne created and all the characters. Just after I read them, I think the first movie was just coming out, and I had a manager at the time, and I remember Danny and plus a couple of my friends had actually said that Annie reminded them of me when they read the books, which was pretty mind-blowing to me. I do remember when I read the books that I really fell in love with that character. I remember just telling my manager to stay on the lookout for it, and it came across.
Mad.
It is mad. It is mad. The audition sides that we got were not from the movie. They were dummy sides, which happens a lot in when you're going for a big film. What the audition piece had was the emotional life of the character.
Right, yeah.
So it was a really beautiful scene with a girl talking about loss, and that was Annie. I just put what I dreamt up of the role into that audition, which at the time, I remember reading it with a friend the night before, and I think she didn't quite understand what I was doing with it. And I remember doubting myself and thinking, do I do what I think is right, or do I kind of do whatever seems to be just on the page?
Right.
I just had this instinct about it that I saw it in a way, and I put what I felt the character was in the audition. You know, I really related to it because I was dealing with grief myself. I was dealing with some really tough things at the time.
Yeah. And it's like what you said before, isn't it, about taking a risk? Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. And in this case, you took a risk, you went with your gut instinct, and obviously it worked in your favour.
Yeah. And I think there's no harm in doing that every time, because sometimes you're gonna fail.
Yeah.
Full on fail, and that's okay. I've never regretted sticking to whatever that thing inside of you is that's this is my vision for it. You've just got to stick to that every time. Sure, keep within the writer's intention. Choices within that are really important. That's what makes you unique.
Yeah, exactly.
As an actress.
Rather than doing exactly what's on the page.
Bringing you and yourself to it. Don't try and guess what someone wants for it.
Talking of oh my god moments, who was the person to either work with or watch work on that film that you were really, really blown away by?
That is a tough question because that is picking between your kids. Sam, I was so blown away by his openness and his ability to just sink into the character, and he was just brilliant to work with, and I'm so grateful the way he just made me feel so comfortable, and so I was immediately adopted into that family. You look at someone like Jen, who's just got this crazy ability to just sink in so quickly. She could be mucking around 1 minute and we're all having a laugh and a good time, and then immediately sinks into this beautiful emotional life. I remember a moment watching Jen, Philip Seymour Hoffman and Julianne Moore in a scene. My first day on set where I was getting a costume fitting, and the producers were like, Steph, come here, and I put the cans on and I was watching them do a scene that was...
That is crazy. Was it intimidating working with such high-profile actors and going into a situation where bonds had already been made and relationships formed?
Yeah. The short answer. It could have been really intimidating and really crazy and but the moment I arrived on set, I just felt so welcome, and that is just from the top trickling down.
So how important do you think it is for actors to learn about the business of the industry?
Acting is like being the CEO of your own company.
Yeah.
I've heard that before, and I really love that.
I love that.
Yeah. You know, when you have rep, they get 10% of your work, so you should doing the rest of it
Yeah.
in a way. I think it's really smart to figure out what your life as a performer and you've really got to have the tools ready to go if you want to crack into the market. Show reels, headshots, all that jazz.
And a lot of people
it's really
don't know
important.
that, do they? Like, a lot of people don't know how important it is, because to have everything clear so that if you do get a role, you're ready to go and you don't make life difficult for anyone.
Yeah, but even getting in the door that's the hard part, is having the tools ready to go to even get in the door, to be seen for stuff. Acting is such an individual journey. I think everyone's story is unique and you can't compare yourself to anyone else, because who's to say that someone isn't as valid who went to drama school that didn't go to drama school? Not everyone can afford to go to drama school. That doesn't make them any less of an amazing talent. Like, it doesn't matter how you do it. Times are changing. Like, we live in a world now where self-taping is a thing, and everything is just way more accessible. People are making their own work as well. Like, you don't necessarily have to wait.
You've done so much stuff and you still go to classes and things. Like, I'm still very new to everything, so I'm constantly going to classes. But no matter what level you're at, I think it's still important to train in some way.
I think it is.
But it doesn't mean that you have to go to RADA or something like that.
And I think it's also where you're at. Like, for you, if whatever nourishes you in that moment is going to a place with structure, that's awesome. But maybe it's running with a friend, or maybe it's going to a private coach as opposed to like a group class.
When you're given a role, what is your process with getting into the character and really connecting with it?
In an ideal world, I love researching as much as I can about like the backstory, and love period pieces. I love anything with the world. You don't always get all that information immediately, so I think like when it comes to a character, you've also got to find the things that are similar to you and the things that are different to you, but start with the things that do connect to you. You just realize, like, we're not all that different as human beings.
You will always find something, even if you're not sure. With my character, with the Dustwalker, we were very, very different. But then as I did more and more research, I just felt like I brought a lot more out of her, and I discovered more about her, and that me and I really could connect to her. So you're totally right about that.
Yeah, that's right. I remember watching you go through that process, and it is that thing about just playing and discovering things, and if you have the luxury of time.
Yeah, of course. What is your star sign?
Sagittarius.
Hummus or guacamole?
Both.
What is the most starstruck you've ever been?
When I met Paul Hogan, Crocodile Dundee.
Best breakfast spot in New York?
Two Hands, Aussie Cafe, amazing.
New York or LA?
New York.
Would you rather be a grapefruit or a courgette?
A what?
A grapefruit or a courgette?
I don't even know what a courgette is.
What would be your ideal date?
Horse riding and then ending up at a campfire.
So Stef,
Talina.
fashion, obviously. I've got a few questions to ask you.
Oh, do you?
Is fashion important to you?
Very. It's important enough to me where it's like an extension of personality, I think. It should be an expression of who you are and extension of that, and you do that really well.
Thank you.
You really do.
You've obviously done quite a few red carpet experiences with film premieres and things. How much control do you have over what you wear?
A lot less than you might think. If you're a small fish in a big pond, the thing is you have like stylists and people that are working for you. Sometimes it can take time to develop relationships with those designers. Also, there might be limited availability for that particular designer, and also I'm a very small human, so sometimes things don't fit. You have to get it altered, and there might be less choice.
Do you have a style icon?
There's no one I like try to style myself like, but I love like Katharine Hepburn. She was just so ahead of her time. She wore kind of like guys' clothes before that was a thing.
Yeah.
And I really think that's great. She was just so comfortable in her skin.
Because you have so much experience in the industry and you've got a lot of interesting stuff to say, what are 3 pieces of advice you would give to young actors and actresses wanting to break out into the industry?
One would be that it's all possible. It's easier to get access to things more than ever. I think like anyone that has the idea that they want to do it, they should just go for it. 2 is probably embrace your unique self. 3, make your own work.
Yeah. I love
There's
that.
like nothing stopping anybody.
Yeah, it's so
We
true.
have iPhones.
Thank you so much for sitting on this floor with me and sitting in a studio with me and sitting with some plants with me
You're so welcome.
and talking about your career and being so inspiring and interesting. It's been amazing having you on YGSF TV and it's been amazing being in New York with you. And now I'm going to give you a kiss on the cheek. Bye.
It's so boring because I knew the kiss on the cheek was coming.